All right, a good Saturday afternoon to you. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist John Dawson. Glad you could check in here with our tropical update. And yes, it's going to be all about Beryl. It's going to be a lot of focus on the state of Texas. I know normally we have so many visitors that are checking in with us from with our tropical updates every afternoon from all across the Atlantic basin. I know the Caribbean viewers and followers were definitely plugged in as Beryl was moving across the Caribbean. But now it's in the Gulf of Mexico, and now we are talking a whole lot about Texas. And yes, just so we're clear, again, if you're visiting and not from the Houston area, this is where I am in Houston, and we're certainly all focused on Beryl and what it's going to do to the Texas coast. It's really kind of bullseyeing right now on the central portions of the coast, and those impacts can be greatly varied from just 20 to 25 or even 50-mile difference on where that eye would make its landfall. And so we'll see that. Hopefully we're getting that a little bit more narrowed down at this point. But our visible satellite imagery starting to show a little bit of a recovery from Beryl's track over the Yucatan Peninsula. Beryl, it didn't, I don't want to say it completely fell apart, but it certainly got ugly and messy on the satellite imagery. Now again beginning to look a little bit better organized and still fighting some elements. We're going to talk about those in just a second. But at this point, we're looking at a tropical storm and with the maximum sustained winds still at 60 miles an hour. So this is holding steady with the previous update that we've had. And you'll notice it's still expected to maybe gain a little bit more strength in the overnight hours on Saturday night, early Sunday. But by this time tomorrow afternoon, we do expect to see Beryl sort of getting itself organized and strengthening back into hurricane strength. And right now it looks like landfall. We're expecting about 85 to 90 mile an hour winds. And that is going to be something that's we got to all take serious, of course. And at this point, it does look like Matagorda Bay, right towards Victoria, Palacios. Those are the areas that we're focusing on at this point. So as this track begins to settle in and focus a little bit more, remember we are still trying to remember that it could happen anywhere within our cone here. And so when we start looking at some winds and some rainfall and some storm surge, all of that could slide around a little with a slight variation of the track. For sure, that coastal flooding and storm surge is going to be a concern for those folks right near the coast. All of us are concerned about the heavy rain. In very general terms, 5 to 10 inches is what we're expecting, with some isolated areas even 12 to 15 inches. And the good news about this system, though, even with those high rainfall rates that we're talking about, it's keeping some momentum. It's not something that we expect to really stall out. So by the time we get to Tuesday morning, we're already moving up towards the Dallas area, and maybe still a tropical storm, maybe just a depression. But then by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon, that's up in the northeast Texas and exiting the state and heading on. And again, that movement is going to be good for those of us close to the coast because the rainfall will be somewhat less. This is our exclusive Fox model. It's done a pretty good job with Beryl so far. And you will notice that our model here, the Fox model, keeps the track just a little bit to the west of what the official forecast track from the Hurricane Center is. So all of this is still going to vary just a little bit, and we'll see. You'll notice this landfall occurring maybe a little bit closer into Corpus Christi than what we're seeing Victoria as far as our computer model here. But what we really want to focus on for sure is all this rain that's going to get wrapped around that. If it does get a little bit further to the west, notice Houston, city of Houston, maybe not getting quite as much of that rainfall, and that is something that we'll still have to focus on. Again, the path is pretty well getting narrowed down, but it's not in concrete yet. For sure, everyone in Southeast Texas needs a plan for some heavy rains. As we're closer to that center of circulation, the winds will be higher, and that's where we're going to see the potential for those power lines to get messed up with those winds. And there's also the possibility of tornadoes that could kind of get spun off from this as well. Just one of those hazards we can't pinpoint nearly as well as some of these other expectations like rain and storm surge. So here is Beryl sort of regaining somewhat of a signature that looks like a hurricane, not a well-defined eye at this point. That's pretty typical of a tropical cyclone that's weak like this. Here is the future for the winds, where we see these tropical storm force winds as we begin to get closer to landfall. And you'll notice right as we start to get to landfall, these get a little bit stronger and perhaps up closer right at, you see a little orange that popped in there. That's that hurricane force winds that we would expect right as we're getting closer to landfall. Notice all these higher winds stay right along the coast there where the ocean it has less friction, less interaction. Some of those sort of slip up a little bit further to the north as we continue to watch those winds be a problem as it's closer to the center of that track. Now, we do have a storm surge watch, and I have to apologize. I'm not sure what's happening here with my graphics. This is something we want to make sure to note, that this storm surge watch does go all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So my computer having a little bit of trouble updating here, but you'll note that it does now include all of Galveston Bay. So maybe it's good that we're doing this because it highlights the big change that we've seen. We now see the storm surge watch including all of Galveston Bay and going all the way to Port Arthur, as a matter of fact. And like I said, this should be shaded all the way down to Mexico as well. There should be that storm surge watch. And again, with the hurricane watch, we've got a lot more counties here than what we've got popping up, but we've got a lot of situation pretty much the same as where we're seeing those hurricane watch take place. Here's some of those winds as we're blowing them through here. That center of circulation right now expected to be a little bit further out to the west of downtown Houston, bringing in those winds as they move on through. The quicker we can kind of get this through, the less likely we'll have the duration of those winds. 6 to 10 inches in those some spots, and then as I mentioned, we could have even a few spots that are even higher. This is what we're looking at right now, those 4 to 6 inches for most of the city of Houston. We'll need everyone to sort of stay where you are so that can hit the roadways, maybe have some short-term flooding, and then kind of get that receded back down into the bayous. We're fortunate right now that our bayous are relatively low, although we certainly did get some rain across the Houston area today that's sort of helping to add to that just a little bit. So I hope that you've been using your Saturday to go through some of your preparations. Lots of different things to be thinking about and just to sort of make sure that you're ready. Sunday, everybody's going to be at the grocery stores. It's going to be hard to find some of these supplies. Make sure that you have preparations for that loss of power. So that would include things like batteries and flashlights, a way to keep your phone charged if you're watching me right now on your device, whether it be the Fox 26 weather app or the Fox 26 News app. Keep that device charged. You're still able to see everything coming out of here, the studios here. And then also you'll want to keep anything else going that you need power for along the way. In addition to the hurricane watches, which is what you see down here in red, we do have most of the Fox 26 viewing area in the green shading, and that's a flood watch. That's just the sort of general flood watch we would see anytime that we're expecting heavy enough rains to create some of that street flooding where you don't want to be moving around. Really on Monday morning, we want people settled and not out moving and driving around with this sort of a situation that we're continuing to deal with. So we're talking about a little bit more of what we're looking at with Beryl. That satellite imagery, as I mentioned, is getting a little bit better organized, a little bit more looking like a tropical system. It was had a lot of dry air that was kind of working against it earlier, and we're going to look at that water vapor imagery here in just a second. But our spaghetti forecast, our computer models there, starting to come into pretty good agreement again that we're looking at Matagorda Bay. I showed you the Fox model, which puts it a little bit over to the west, but still within the realm of where we're looking at overall. And then we'll still see some very warm waters that's helping it. So this is a little bit of a discussion on what's helping and what's not helping Beryl. Helping Beryl certainly are these warm waters. That helps to fuel it. So as it continues to move on through, it'll have that energy to help strengthen it. But here's that water vapor that I was talking about. See how this dry air is still kind of wrapped around it? Starting to sort of go away, though. We had even more of this orange and dry air that it was dealing with, but you'll notice we're starting to kind of run out of this dry a little bit. More shades of the black instead of orange. So Beryl is getting a little bit more favorable conditions for that strengthening, and that's why we're expecting that intensification to take place. So from the Weather Prediction Center, also talking about some flooding possibilities. Here's what we're looking at for Sunday when we look for that 15% chance of rain, and then following that path that the center of the storm takes, higher amounts of rain could certainly lead to some flooding. That's going to be now as high as a 40% chance, and you'll notice that still favored more or less west of downtown Houston is where we're expecting to see that. So as we talked about, we've got some heavy rain for sure, probably going to cause some street flooding. It'll be relatively short term. The high winds are definitely going to be something that would help to cause power outages. And then if you're right on the coast, we're looking at that coastal storm surge issue right now, looking to be about 5 feet. So make sure you coastal residents are taking precautions. I know on Friday, Matagorda County was calling for a voluntary evacuations for quite a bit of their area, and I think we'll probably continue to see that on those coastal sides. Again, Matagorda County was just for its coastal areas where storm surge would be more of a threat. Now, if this system strengthens, we can kind of increase the reach of everything, and then exactly where that path, that center of circulation goes, that'll be something for sure that goes along with the winds, but also with the rainfall as well. Here's one more look at rainfall possibilities. We've seen some rain across the area on Saturday, so this is not taking into account Saturday's rain. This basically starts with Saturday night and into Sunday, and we'll see the rain really kick in once we get to Monday. So some bands of that rain could be hitting before Monday morning, but once we get into Monday morning around 9 a.m., that's when we're really going to start adding up the rainfall. You'll watch that path, that swath of its heaviest rain moving right up north of Victoria towards Austin just a little bit, and then that's sort of going to end up veering towards Bryan, College Station area as well. So this is the rainfall through Tuesday. We're not ready to say this is in concrete yet. 100% this is what's going to happen. This path, it'll look like this, but it could slide a little either direction once that system begins to make its landfall. So here's the futurecast, and you'll see we get a break on Sunday evening from some of the rains that we saw on Saturday, and then it should be a quiet Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, though, we see these bands from Beryl that start to move on through. Should be relatively manageable. And then early on Monday, sort of the same scenario, but then here's all of the rain, the big rain, as it begins to move in just between Corpus Christi and Matagorda Bay is where we'll see it. So wrapping things up here with our 7-day forecast. I hope you are continuing to be aware. Monday, Tuesday, Fox 26 storm alert days. For sure on Monday, because the winds and the storm surge, that'll all be tied in with that landfall. But then the flooding threat extends possibly into Tuesday with that rainfall that's also going to be coming. And there's certainly the flooding threat on Monday as well. And we'll have some more showers just in general across the area on Sunday. Some of those Beryl related, some of them maybe not so much. And then we actually are keeping some rain chances as we move through the rest of the week, although it won't necessarily be directly associated with Beryl and its path. All right, that's going to get you updated here with our Fox 26 tropical update. As always, Fox 26 news at 5 p.m. coming up here in about 45 minutes. However you're watching me right now, we'll expect to see you then.